Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. This time we're tackling a question that's been asked and debated for well over a century. What makes Swami Vivekananda great? Maybe you're prepping for a class presentation or you're just fascinated by history and you want to know more. Either way, get ready because Vivekananda's story is full of surprises. Oh, but before we really get started, a quick favor. If you're enjoying this deep dive, please do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. It really does help the channel grow, and we've noticed a lot of you are watching without subscribing. All right, so let's dive in. Swami Vivekananda, a monk, a philosopher, and I think you could definitely call him a visionary. He really introduced the world to India's spiritual depth, and his legacy is still going strong today. Just picture this. It's 1893, the world's Parliament of Religions in Chicago. A young, pretty much unknown to the West, monk in those saffron robes steps onto the stage. He says a simple greeting, "Sisters and Brothers of America," and the audience goes wild with a 2-minute standing ovation. We're talking about that kind of impact.
It really is amazing, isn't it? And the greeting wasn't just politeness either. It was a powerful way to summarize his core belief, the unity of humanity, which, as you'll see, becomes super central to all his teachings and explains why people across the world are still drawn to him.
It's like you saying, we're all in this together no matter where you're from or what you believe. But I want to know how this whole journey started. What about his early life? What influenced him?
Well, Swami Vivekananda was born Narendranath Datta in Kolkata back in 1863, right at this fascinating time where you had traditional Indian culture clashing with all these new Western ideas, and his family was right there in the middle of it, embracing both intellectualism and deep spirituality.
So he had this exposure to Eastern and Western thought from the very beginning.
Absolutely. His father was a successful attorney who really encouraged a questioning mind, and his mother instilled in him this profound spiritual curiosity. It was this unique combo of influences that really shaped him early on.
And you can see that throughout his life, too. I mean, he was known for being really smart, excelling in academics, but also being deeply introspective, always looking for deeper meaning. He explored tons of different philosophies and religions, always seeking truth. It makes me wonder, what sorts of things did he explore?
Oh, he delved into all sorts of Hindu schools of thought. He really wrestled with Western philosophy and even looked at the ideas of agnosticism. It was like this restless intellectual and spiritual quest, driven by this burning desire to find the real truth.
He wasn't going to just blindly accept anything. He wanted to experience truth firsthand. And then comes that pivotal moment when he meets Ramakrishna Paramhansa, that famous mystic. Tell me more about that encounter, because it feels like a turning point.
It absolutely was. You see, young Narendranath, with that sharp analytical mind of his, was actually pretty skeptical of Ramakrishna's mystical experiences and his teachings at first. He really challenged him, questioned him constantly. It wasn't just blind devotion, it was a real search for truth.
He wasn't going to be swayed by just charisma alone.
Yeah.
He needed evidence, real understanding.
Exactly. But Ramakrishna, with his profound wisdom and that unconditional love, patiently guided him. Just imagine this. Ramakrishna actually encouraged Narendranath to test his experiences, to meditate deeply, to experience truth for himself instead of just blindly accepting it.
So it was more than just listening to lectures. It was about feeling and knowing.
Precisely. And through this process, something remarkable happens. This skeptical young man, now Swami Vivekananda, embraces the core principles of Vedanta, which is this really profound system of thought, emphasizing the unity of everything and the divinity in every person.
Now, hold on a sec. I think it's important to break down Vedanta a bit. For people who might not be familiar with it, it can sound a bit abstract and complex. What were those key ideas that Vivekananda grasped?
Okay, so Vedanta, at its core, says that the ultimate reality, what they call Brahman, is one, and that everything in the universe, including us, is a manifestation of this divine essence. It's this radical idea that we're not separate from the divine, that divinity is within each of us. And it's a huge shift in perspective that can be incredibly empowering.
So instead of seeing ourselves as these limited, flawed beings, it's about realizing our potential and that connection to something way bigger.
That's a great way to put it. And Vivekananda didn't just intellectually grasp these ideas, he lived them.
That's incredible. He was a living example of his teachings. And it's this lived experience that he brought to that big stage, that iconic moment at the Parliament of Religions. Take us back to that scene. What was it like?
Just imagine this grand hall packed with representatives from all these different faiths. They're all there to talk about their beliefs. And then picture this young monk in the saffron robes, totally an outsider. And he's captivating this Western audience with his eloquence and this powerful message. It was a pivotal moment in history.
Oh, I can only imagine the energy in that room. What was it about his message that people connected with so strongly? What did he say?
Well, instead of presenting Hinduism as just a bunch of exotic rituals, Vivekananda introduced it as this sophisticated philosophy, one that's rooted in tolerance and universal acceptance. He really eloquently explained that ancient Indian concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world as one family.
What a beautiful concept. It goes way beyond just religious boundaries and speaks to something truly human.
Hmm.
We're all interconnected.
Exactly. Just imagine the impact of hearing this back in 1893. He was challenging those prevailing ideas of religious exclusivity, and he presented this vision of harmony and connection.
He didn't shy away from saying how important it is to understand and accept different faiths. I mean, he said that famous line, "We believe not only in universal toleration, but we accept all religions as true." It was a radical thing to say, especially back then when religious differences often led to conflict.
His message was like a breath of fresh air, a call for understanding and unity in a world that's often divided by dogma and intolerance. And the world listened.
It's like he was laying the foundation for the idea of religious pluralism. Way back in the 19th century. His speech wasn't just a presentation, it was a turning point.
You're absolutely right. It changed how the West saw Hinduism. And even more importantly, it helped put India on the map as a spiritual powerhouse.
It's amazing to think about the impact of one speech. But his legacy goes way beyond that. He didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk.
Absolutely. And one of the most fascinating parts of his legacy is the impact he had on Indian nationalism, especially during a time when India was struggling under British colonial rule.
You know, when you talk about Vivekananda's influence on Indian nationalism, it's important to remember that his vision wasn't limited to just India.
Oh, definitely. He was a true global thinker, you could say, a citizen of the world. He understood that humanity as a whole faced common challenges, and he truly believed that India's spiritual wisdom could offer solutions, not just for India, but for everyone.
I love that idea, especially now in a world that's so interconnected. So let's talk about his relevance. What makes Vivekananda's ideas so timeless? What speaks to us today?
Well, for starters, his message of religious harmony couldn't be more important right now. You know, in a world dealing with religious extremism and so much intolerance, Vivekananda's vision of unity and acceptance is like a beacon of hope. He didn't just talk about tolerance, he actually championed this idea that all religions are valid paths to the same truth.
It seems like he really understood that holding on to rigid beliefs and excluding others only creates division and conflict. Instead, he focused on finding common ground, recognizing our shared humanity.
Exactly, and that's what makes his message so powerful and lasting. It goes beyond cultural differences and historical context because it speaks to this basic human need for connection and understanding. But his relevance isn't limited to just religious harmony, is it? What about his focus on young people and what he had to say to them?
His teachings are incredibly empowering. He had this amazing faith in the power of youth. He saw them as the change makers, the ones who would create a better future. You know, he said, take risks in your life. If you win, you can lead. If you lose, you can guide. And that says so much about how much he believed in their potential.
That's a great quote. It reminds us that real growth often comes from stepping outside our comfort zones, embracing challenges and learning from mistakes. He wasn't saying to be reckless, but to have courage and be willing to learn and evolve. He knew that true strength comes from facing those tough times and coming out stronger.
He also stressed the importance of character, hard work, and resilience, qualities that are even more important in the world today.
Absolutely. He believed that to achieve true greatness, whether it's personal or societal, you need effort, you need to keep going, and you need to bounce back from setbacks.
It's like that grit we hear so much about today. It's about embracing challenges, learning from failures, and never giving up. His teachings offer this practical roadmap for life. They're a source of strength and inspiration, especially for young people, especially when the world can feel so overwhelming at times.
He also talked about balancing spirituality with modernity. He recognized that true spirituality isn't about running away from the world, it's about engaging with it and transforming it from within.
So it's not an either thing, it's about finding that sweet spot.
Exactly. He famously said, what the world wants is character. The world is in need of those whose life is one burning love, selfless. He saw spirituality as the driving force for positive action, for creating a more just and compassionate world.
He was calling for a spirituality that's not just about personal enlightenment, but about using that enlightenment to help others and make a difference.
And his vision really resonated with all sorts of people from all walks of life. He connected with those who wanted a life with more purpose and meaning. and he inspired so many to bridge that gap between their inner world and their actions, to live intentionally and make a positive impact.
He also challenged that colonial mindset that had taken hold in India under British rule. He urged Indians to reclaim their confidence, to recognize their rich heritage and the power of their own traditions.
He's right. He wanted to dismantle that feeling of inferiority that had been imposed by colonial powers. He reminded Indians of their incredible past, their contributions to philosophy, science, and spirituality.
Instead of dwelling on the negative aspects of colonialism, he encouraged them to stand tall and draw strength from their heritage, and to create a future based on their own values and hopes.
His idea of nationalism wasn't about just opposing the West. It was about reclaiming their narrative, redefining their identity on their own terms.
It was about recognizing their worth and contributing to the world from a place of strength.
He believed that India's true greatness wasn't about copying the West. It was about rediscovering their own unique strengths and sharing their wisdom with the world. He wasn't against progress or innovation, but he advocated for a balanced approach that respected their heritage, while embracing the best of modern thought.
He said, each nation has a message to deliver. Each nation has a mission to fulfill. Each nation has a destiny to reach. He saw India's destiny as a spiritual leader, guiding the world towards a more harmonious and enlightened future.
And it's really inspiring to see how his vision still resonates today. He reminds us that true progress isn't about blindly following others. It's about embracing what makes us unique, honoring our heritage, and making a contribution to the world in a way that's authentic.
He also knew that achieving national rejuvenation went beyond just political freedom. He believed that true progress meant empowering the masses, uplifting those who were struggling, and creating a society where everyone could flourish.
He emphasized education as a key to unlocking potential and giving people the power to shape their own lives. He advocated for social reforms that tackled poverty, inequality, and marginalization.
He saw education as more than just acquiring knowledge. It was a tool for liberation, for critical thinking, and for empowering people to become agents of change in their communities.
His vision for India was holistic, encompassing spiritual, social, and economic well-being. He understood that true national greatness required a thriving and empowered population, not just a powerful elite.
He believed in the potential of everyone, regardless of background or social standing. And he made it his mission to ignite that potential, to inspire people to rise above their circumstances, and to make society better.
And that's exactly why his message is still so powerful today. He speaks of that desire within us to make a difference, to be part of something bigger than ourselves, and to leave the world a little bit better. His life and teachings provide a timeless guide for navigating our complex world.
This has been such an insightful exploration, but I'm curious, how do we apply Vivekananda's wisdom in our own lives? What are some takeaways, some practical insights that our listeners can use?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive into the legacy of Swami Vivekananda.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the incredible world of Swami Vivekananda. We've gone from his youth, that intellectual curiosity, all the way to his global influence. We've talked about his message of unity, service, and empowerment, and how his teachings are still relevant in our world today. But the big question is, how do we apply Vivekananda's wisdom to our own lives? How do we take these profound ideas and actually put them into action and create real change?
That's the key, isn't it? And it's a question Vivekananda addressed all the time. He wasn't just some philosopher up in an ivory tower. He was a practical guide. He gave us tools for both personal and societal transformation.
Okay, so let's get practical then. What are some takeaways, some steps we can actually incorporate into our lives?
Well, I think it starts with believing in yourself. Vivekananda always emphasized how powerful it is to recognize that divinity within, to tap into that infinite potential we all have.
It's not about being egotistical or arrogant. It's about understanding our inherent worth, our capacity for growth, and our ability to make a positive impact. He was saying, you're capable of incredible things. Don't sell yourself short.
Exactly. And that realization can be so empowering. It helps us break free from self-doubt and all those limiting beliefs that hold us back.
It's about owning our strengths, acknowledging our weaknesses, and always trying to grow and evolve.
And Vivekananda believed that true growth goes beyond just our inner world. It has to show up in our actions, in how we serve others.
So it's not enough to just think about being compassionate or meditate on kindness. We have to actually practice it. We have to turn those inner feelings into actions that make a difference in other people's lives.
He was very clear about that. He said that service shouldn't be seen as a burden, but as an opportunity for spiritual growth. It's a way to connect with our own divinity, by recognizing and serving the divinity in everyone we meet.
That reminds me of that quote, God is present in every human being. Serve humanity to serve God. It's like a reminder that even our smallest actions can have a huge impact. They can create this ripple effect of kindness, compassion, and positive change.
And those ripples can spread much further than we realize.
And I know we have a lot of young listeners, students, entrepreneurs, artists, people who are just starting out on their journeys. What message do you think Vivekananda would have for them?
I think he'd tell them to be bold, to go after their dreams without fear. Remember that famous line, "Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached." That's a powerful call to action, an invitation to embrace challenges, learn from failures, and never give up.
He understood that setbacks are going to happen, but they're not the end of the story. He was urging young people to be resilient, to keep pushing forward, to keep learning and growing.
He also emphasized that true success isn't just about money or status. It's about the positive mark we leave on the world, the people we touch, and how we contribute to our communities.
So it's not just about climbing that ladder of success, it's about how we treat others along the way and what kind of world we're creating as we climb.
Exactly. It's about living a life with purpose, a life guided by compassion, ethics, and a commitment to building a world where everyone can thrive. And this applies to everyone, young or old, no matter what your background is.
This deep dive has been such an incredible journey, exploring the life, legacy, and wisdom of Swami Vivekananda. It's been insightful, inspiring, and so empowering.
We've talked about his message of unity, service, and empowerment, and I hope we've inspired you to apply his principles to your own life.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final quote from Vivekananda. He said, "You have to grow from the inside out. None can teach you. None can make you spiritual. There is no other teacher but your own soul."
That's such a powerful reminder that real change begins within each of us. It's about connecting with that inner wisdom, strength, and divinity we all have. And as we nurture that inner growth, it will naturally radiate outwards and impact the world around us in profound ways.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Swami Vivekananda. This is just the beginning.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep working to create a world that reflects the wisdom and compassion of this amazing spiritual leader.
Until next time, keep diving deep.